Thank you so much, all. Good morning and welcome to the virtual Energy, Climate Change, Environmental Justice, and LA River Committee. This is our regular hearing. I am joined by colleagues, Mr. Paul Koretz and Paul Krikorian, and we should be joined shortly by the other members. We do have a quorum. But before I turn it over to our clerk to call the roll, I'd like to remind everyone to make sure that you are on mute when not speaking. Mr. Litt, if you could please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember O'Farrell.
Present.
Councilmember Ridley Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Koretz.
Present.
Councilmember De Leon. And Councilmember Krikorian.
Here.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Litt. In a moment, we will take up to 1 hour to hear from members of the public who wish to comment on items specific to today's agenda, and 1 minute for general public comment. I'll turn it over to our city attorney to explain the speaking rules to the members of the public in just a moment who are in, and to our city clerk to provide the necessary information for the public to dial in. Madam City Attorney, if you would please instruct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To members of the public calling in, when it is your turn to speak, please state which of the agenda items you would like to speak on. You have 1 minute per item to speak, up to 2 minutes total, and 1 minute for general public comment. We will tell you when your time is up. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you are not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell whether you are speaking on a specific agenda item, you will get one brief warning from me or the chair. If you do not immediately get clearly on topic, or again stray off topic, the chair will cut you off, and you will forfeit the rest of your speaking time, and we will move on to the next speaker. We will take up to 1 hour total of public comment. Please press *9 to request to speak. As soon as you hear someone address you on the phone, please press *6 and state your name and state which agenda items you would like to speak on. We know this situation is not ideal, and thank you for your cooperation as we do the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. And then, Clerk, would you please read the instructions for the public to dial in?
Yes. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-919-4459 and then press the pound key. Press the pound key again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Litt. And just as a reminder, caller, when you hear someone address you specifically on the phone, always remember to press *6 and then state your name and which agenda item. And with that, we are ready to take the first caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 2780, please press *6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Lisa Hart, item number 3.
Okay, Ms. Hart, you have 1 minute for item 3. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm with the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance Advocacy Committee, and the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance is a member of the Reusable LA Coalition. First, I want to thank the offices of Council members Koretz, Krikorian, and O'Farrell for working with us on this issue. Currently, there's an expectation that restaurants provide all the extra unwanted stuff. And today we have an opportunity to support restaurants in helping the environment, reducing waste, and saving money by changing that expectation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 0641, please press *6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
My name is Celia Cody-Crease. I'd like to speak on general public comment.
All right, you have 1 minute. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Celia. I'm with the Sunrise Movement here in Los Angeles. I'm calling to support the Just Hollywood plan for Hollywood's community plan because we don't need developer giveaways, we need climate justice. We have less than 10 years to avoid climate catastrophe, and we can't carry on with business as usual. The proposed plan contains no environmental mitigations. That section is literally left blank. And Hollywood and Los Angeles in general has an opportunity and a responsibility to lead the way on sustainable, equitable development, and I urge that we do what is right. Developers who are seeking zoning concessions should be required to, at the very least, provide LEED Gold standards, no natural gas hookups, and transit incentives for employees. So I want to urge Councilmember O'Farrell to sign on to the Just Hollywood plan, and also thank Councilmember Koretz for his support of the Just Hollywood plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 6086. Please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Maro Kokusian, item number 2.
Okay, you have 1 minute for item 2. Please go ahead.
Hi, so I'm with Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles and the LA LEAP Coalition. LA LEAP has been working with the city and council member Paul Koretz for the past 4 years to establish the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office and Commission, and we are really excited to see this move forward. Our vision for this office was to ensure low-income and frontline communities of color are prioritized in the city's accelerated climate and resilience responses. The office aims to protect frontline communities hit first and worst by climate impacts by ensuring a rapid and equitable transition. It also ensures frontline leaders participate in the decision-making process. The Commission provides a useful vehicle for broad stakeholder input, including representation from frontline and indigenous communities, local small businesses, youth, labor, and climate leaders. So we really encourage members of this committee to vote to formalize the creation of this office and commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 5145. Please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Liliana Hernandez and general public comments.
Okay, 1 minute. Please go
Hi,
ahead.
my name is Liliana. Thank you. Hi, my name is Liliana Hernandez, and I live in Hollywood, and I'm a Unite Here Local 11 member. The draft Hollywood Community Plan streamlines environment review, including for commercial projects. Even though the plan currently contains no new environmental requirements, we need a Just Hollywood plan that addresses our climate crisis and takes advantage of the good access to transit we have in Hollywood. In order to build larger buildings, developers should be required to provide free transit passes and build more efficient 100% electric buildings. Council Member O'Farrell, please support a Just Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 0492. Please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Ethan Spencer with Food and Water Watch, and I'd like to speak on items 2 and general public comment.
You have 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Councilmember O'Farrell. I'd like to speak in favor of the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office, and just to really just urge the council and this committee in general to really be doing everything that you can to support this office. It is so crucial to everything that we're working on as a city around climate, because it is part of really investing power and trust in the community as real partners in this mission. And we know that no entity, no municipality, no department, no organization can be doing this on its own. it takes that work of practice and trust of coming together and really working as partners in this, that we're ever going to find real and equitable solutions, because no policy can ever occur in a vacuum, because that's not how the people of our city live. All these issues intersect, and that's why we really need to be coming together in a fair and transparent way to be making sure that these solutions work for everyone, which is exactly what the CEMO hopes to do. For example, with the LA 100 study, which we were here just at the last council meeting talking about, that study is going to provide us a lot of data, but it doesn't tell us how we can be making those decisions. It doesn't tell us how we should be implementing those decisions. It doesn't tell us, everything else we need to be doing in our city in order for those solutions to actually be possible when it comes to implementing it with folks. Like I said, these are all intersecting issues, and we need to be supporting those community-based solutions. And on that point, I would just like to add that I really do support also the Just Hollywood plan, and would urge the council members to support that as well. Councilmember O'Farrell, I appreciate Councilmember Correct's help with that plan. Community members can't afford to transition their homes to be more energy efficient. They are struggling to pay their rent due to gentrification and development that lacks affordable housing. They can't give up gas guzzling cars if buildings.
Thank you so much, caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1541, please press *6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Morning, my name is Emily Parker, and I would like to speak on items 3 and general public comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair O'Farrell and honorable committee members. I'm the Coastal and Marine Scientist for Heal the Bay and co-chair of the Reusable LA Coalition. We're a group of organizations working to reduce plastic pollution in Los Angeles. We strongly support the motion to draft a foodware accessories upon request ordinance, and we thank Council Members Corian and Correct for introducing this much-needed legislation that will reduce unnecessary and unwanted waste and help our beloved local restaurants and businesses save money during this impossibly difficult time. Delivery and takeout has become ubiquitous, and along with it, unnecessary utensils, condiments, and other accessories that are often not asked for and thrown away without ever being used. With an ever-changing landscape of delivery companies and restaurants, we need a legislative solution to ensure that the accessories on request model becomes permanent and normalized behavior here in LA. The COVID-19 pandemic has only worsened the plastics problem, stressing our waste management systems to the brink and leaving our restaurants in dire need of assistance. Consumption of single-use plastics has increased nearly 300% since the pandemic began. And here in LA, nearly 100 restaurants have permanently closed due to the pandemic, with thousands more that are struggling to keep their doors open and relying pretty heavily on takeout and delivery to do so. When restaurants provide accessories only upon request, they're both saving money and preventing waste, benefiting all Angelenos. We commend the council for their leadership, and we urge you to pass this motion today. And we also encourage council members and staff to work with Heal the Bay and other members of the Reusable LA Coalition in the development of this ordinance. And while I have you, we do also support the creation of the Office of Climate Emergency Mobilization and the commission and related items. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to comment today.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1131, press *6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Elise Quinyajo. I'd like to speak on item number 4 as well as offer general public comment.
All right, you have 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
Sure. I'm from Prime Residential. We own Park La Brea as well as other apartment communities in Northridge, Woodland Hills, and Canoga Park. I'm here to reiterate that we oppose the implementation of a rate increase by Recikla LA service providers and ask them to be subject to the same rate increase freeze that we are. I've read the report from LA Sanitation and would urge the council and say that the recommendations don't go far enough. While we appreciate the recognition that multifamily property owners have been disproportionately impacted by the current economic environment and related legislation, all this proposes is to defer the payment on the rate increase, and it does not freeze it, and it's only for a period of 6 months. That's simply not in parity with what we are experiencing as owners of RSO units. we are not allowed to implement any increases for a year after the state of emergency list. So all we're asking for is equal treatment, and if we're going to be subject to rate increase freezes, so should RSPs. And again, just reiterating how much our industry has been affected by the pandemic and the related legislation. So we urge the council to go further and implement a rate increase freeze that is congruent with ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 9311, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Aditi Shekarwar, and I'd like to give general public comment.
All right, you have 1 minute. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I'm with Sunrise Movement. I'm a constituent in Hollywood. I'm a constituent of Councilmember O'Farrell, and I'm calling in today to support the Just Hollywood plan for Hollywood's community plan. We don't need developer giveaways. If developers want zoning concessions, they should be required to provide higher levels of environmental standards, and that looks like LEED Gold standards, no natural gas hookups in buildings, and giving transit passes to employees in commercial buildings. We need to make Hollywood more affordable. We need to make it more environmentally equitable. And I'd like to urge Councilmember O'Farrell to support a Just Hollywood, and I'd also like to thank Councilmember Corretz for listening to our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 3829, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Lardner-Prats with the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles, and I'd like to speak on item 4 and general public comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
Thank you. The association commends the chair and the committee for recognizing the unique circumstances faced by rental housing providers and the objective to alleviate the impact of the Recikla LA rate increase. We also appreciate the good faith effort made by the RSPs through the proposed short-term plan. Nevertheless, we urge the committee to extend the deferral period to align with state and local emergency measures. We also ask that the committee revisit this matter in July to assess the plan and participation. Lastly, as the deferral is prompted by a proactive request, we ask that the RSP and the cities promptly and on a periodic basis throughout the deferral period conduct comprehensive outreach to rental property owner customers to ensure that they are aware of the deferral option. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 0471, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi all, my name is Melissa Aguayo and I'd like to speak on agenda items number 3 and 2.
All right, you have 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Council Member. My name is Melissa Aguayo and I'm the Member Engagement Officer for Breakthrough from Plastic US, which is a global movement looking to break free from plastic, and also co-chair of the Reusable LA Coalition, of which you heard some of our members today. First, I want to start with a huge thank you to Councilmember Corretz and Krikorian and Bonin for introducing this motion, and for Councilmember O'Farrell for your continued leadership on this issue. As a mom, I oftentimes want to order out, and it has been really hard with all of the unnecessary waste that comes with it. Also knowing that restaurants have been really hit by everything that's been happening. I'm also, because I work in plastics, I'm acutely aware of the large amounts of waste that come with that. If we look at just single-use disposables as utensils, we're talking about 36 billion disposable utensils that are used every year in the United States, which put end to end could wrap around the earth 139 times, just for a little visual. More importantly, there are many unseen impacts around these single-use plastics. They come with many, many impacts. Plastic pollutes throughout its entire life cycle, from extraction to disposal, with communities of color and low-income communities being disproportionately impacted by that. LA is kind of unique in that we have the full life cycle of plastic here, and we should not be placing an unnecessary burden on these communities when they're already being disproportionately impacted by COVID as well. Because of this and more, I'm in strong support of this foodware ordinance of accessories on request, and I'm grateful to the leadership of our council members for their work on this. And I'm excited to see these legislative solutions, which we consider a win-win-win for impacted restaurants, win for our environment, win for our landfills and oceans that are already seeing the impacts of this additional waste, and of course for our city. These are the kinds of common sense solutions that bring us closer to breaking free from plastic in a way that works for all Angelinos. And as far as item number 2, there's of course a very strong connection between climate and plastic connections. A lot of those communities are being that are being impacted by plastic are the same communities that are being impacted by climate change.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
I just want to say my favorite.
We have to
Caller
keep.
with the ending in 5051. Please press star 6 to unmute. Please state your name and what you would like to speak on.
All right. My name is Josiah Edwards, a member of Sunrise Movement LA, and I'd like to speak on item 2 and general public comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
First, item 2, I strongly support the creation of the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office. We, as frontline communities, will face stark pushback and always have from the oil and gas interests like SoCal Gas. And this office, led by advocates for the frontline, will be one of the primary means by which we fight back against that pressure and create sustainable solutions to fight back against the climate emergency, which will and is disproportionately affecting marginalized Angelinos. On general public comment, I support the Just Hollywood Coalition and the Hollywood Community Plan because we don't need developer giveaways, we need climate justice. The proposed plan contains no environmental mitigations. The section is literally blank. I urge that we do what is right and make Hollywood a leader in sustainability. Listen, I've suffered as a consequence of a lack of equitable transit. Developers have no more of a right to traverse the city than me. Additionally, I also want to uplift the voices of members of Unite Here Local 11. They are frontline workers who deserve to be heard and receive the support necessary to work their jobs in a good, fair, and equitable manner. As I said before, developers are no more important than our essential workers who have sacrificed so much in the midst of this pandemic. If all we build near transit in Hollywood is luxury buildings and market-rate apartments, we will continue chasing out Hollywood's essential workers, the core transit riders of our city. Please support this plan. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 3034. Please press star 6 to unmute. If you know what item you would like to
Hello, caller. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me? I'd like to speak on item 2 in general public comment. Hello?
We can hear you
Hello?
now. 1 minute for each item.
Okay, great. Great, thank you. This is Charlie Carno with Unite Here Local 11. I just want to extend again our support for the Climate Mobilization Office. As Ethan from Food and Water Watch and other folks have said, it's really important that we hear from the grassroots, and it's actually, frankly, exciting, and we thank Councilmember Kurtz for his leadership on creating a city agency that's full focus is mobilizing the broader public and listening to the concerns of frontline workers like our members. In regards to general public comment, I want to echo what the other speakers have said and support the Just Hollywood plan. Climate justice is housing justice is climate justice, and we can't undermine some of the only successful programs we have to create affordable housing by developer giveaways that will only incentivize market rates and more luxury hotel development. The essential workers of Hollywood need affordable housing near transit. It was very concerning to see CPC perhaps leaning and increasing what developers can build without requiring a commensurate amount of affordable housing. So please support the Just Hollywood plan. Thanks.
Thank you, caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1404. Please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Fred Sutton with the California Apartment Association, item number 4 in general public comment.
All right, 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
Hello, honorable committee members. We appreciate everything you do. On behalf of the California Apartment Association, we deeply appreciate Councilmember O'Farrell's and Price's motion and this committee for continuing to hear the Recikla LA program rate adjustment. The proposals put forth from the waste haulers offer an immediate relief to rental operators who are struggling for their livelihoods and to provide homes for their residents. However, we must highlight that rental operators are still expected to defer rental repayments deep into 2022. SB 91 governs rental repayments and deferrals due to COVID financial hardship. We continue to ask waste haulers and the City of Los Angeles to implement policies that mirror and are consistent with the expectations and restrictions imposed on housing providers. For those that requested, the waste hauling fee increase deferral should be pegged to the mandated state repayment timeline or the local emergency. We also respectfully request a follow-up hearing to be held in August. Deferral enrollment and existing pandemic policies should be reviewed. We really appreciate everything that's been done so far, and thank you for further consideration. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 8767, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Good morning, Barbara Hensley for the Sierra Club, speaking in general comment period and also on item number 3.
Good morning. You have 1 minute for each item. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm the chair of the Central Group of the Angeles Chapter of the Sierra Club, and the Central Group is basically the LA area. And I'm calling in to offer general public comment on the Hollywood development plan. And I would like to thank Councilmember Koretz for his support of the Just Hollywood plan and encourage Councilmember O'Farrell to sign on to the Just Hollywood plan. The Just Hollywood plan has some environmental requirements in it, LEED gold standard for any new buildings, electrification of all buildings, and transit incentives for employees. I think all of these are consistent with our need to get up to speed to avoid a climate catastrophe. So I would really urge Councilmember O'Farrell to sign on to the Just Hollywood plan. As to item number 3, the Sierra Club supports that item for all of the reasons already articulated to you. Thanks for all you do and your time.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 3749, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Yes, hi, I'm Joe Barnes, Director of Programs of Scope in Los Angeles. I'd like to speak to item number 2. I would like to provide a comment in reference to the motion.
1 minute, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to give a big thanks to Councilmember Koretz in Bloomfield for introducing this motion. It's so important for our members who we represent, which are predominantly black and brown residents throughout South Los Angeles. We represent over 50,000 constituents who are associated with SCOPE, and we are all eager to see this creation of the Climate Emergency Office, and we really look forward to working with the leadership as the work continues to move forward. This is definitely needed. The air quality in South Los Angeles is very bad, and many residents are suffering, and it's very important that this body, this council passes this motion today. We have many seniors who support this, residents throughout South Los Angeles who are eager to see this motion passed. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. And just a reminder for everyone, please remember to press star 9 to request to speak, and you'll be called upon. And thank you for all the callers. We can go with the next caller now.
Caller with the phone number ending in 2612, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 2612. Please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
My name is Robert Del Campo, and I'd like to speak on the agenda item number 3.
All right, you have 1 minute. Please go right ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Del Campo, and I'm the owner of Casita del Campo restaurant. And we've been in business in Silver Lake since 1962. And I wanted to show my support for the foodware accessories upon request ordinance. And that's about it. I just want to show that my support is for it. So thank you very much. And I am in Mitchell Farrell's Council, District 13. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. And we love Casita del Campo. We love it. I've been there many times over the past nearly 40 years. So thanks for providing a Los Angeles institution for all of us. Next caller, please.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1741. Please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Good morning. My name is Chris Perez, and I'm commenting on agenda item 4.
All right, you have 1 minute. Please go right ahead.
Terrific. Thank you so much. I'm speaking on behalf of the Building Owners and Managers Association of Greater Los Angeles, which represents over 135 million square feet of high-rise office buildings throughout the county, and including some of the biggest Recikla customers. We appreciate the RSP's willingness to accept late fee assessments and their stated willingness to more proactively work with our buildings. However, we still do request that they assess providing similar deferral options for their rate increase as they did for multifamily properties. According to a recent Bowman GLA survey, most commercial properties have experienced a significant decline in rental and parking income since the onset of the COVID pandemic. Similar deferral options could go a long way for commercial property owners right now. We would also agree to the same payback timeline set out for multifamily properties. Lastly, we want to thank Chairman O'Farrell for again making this motion and starting this important conversation. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 4093. Please press star 6 to unmute. Your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Cora Went, and I'm calling to speak on item 2 and give general public comment.
All right, you have 1 minute for each. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Cora Went, and I'm with the Sunrise Movement in Los Angeles. On item 2, I'd like to encourage the committee to support the Office of Climate Emergency Mobilization to the fullest extent possible. I think that their process of really engaging the community members in the process of drafting climate policy is the best possible way to ensure that climate policies are both ambitious and equitable. And I'm really looking forward to the creation of this office today, and I hope that in the future the Council is able to fund the office fully so that they can carry out their mission to the best extent possible. On general public comment, I'm here to urge Councilmember O'Farrell to support the Just Hollywood plan and to thank Councilmember Perez for listening to our concerns. There's a lot of transit accessible to the Hollywood area, but the plan doesn't do anything to actually encourage its use. And we think that developers who are seeking extra floor area should be at the very least required to give their employees free transit passes. And we also think that increases in floor area should be tied to affordable housing and open space, not a developer giveaway. And I also want to support the no new gas hookups element of the Just Hollywood plan. So I hope that you all support the Just Hollywood plan, and I'm excited to see the creation of the Office of Climate Emergency Mobilization. And thanks so much for listening today.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 2168. Please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi, yes, thank you. Good morning. This is Annalisa Alietti. I'm representing Sweet Cafe here in Eagle Rock. We're under CD14. I am talking about item number 3 on the agenda, and we just want to say that we support this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any black bear sightings recently? Thanks for calling in. Next caller, please.
Caller with the phone number ending in 6912, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi, good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes, caller, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Kimberly Orbe, and I'm a Sierra Club member. I want to say that I support the Just Hollywood plan because we need to proactively work towards climate justice. The proposed plan contains no environmental mitigation, so I want to urge that we do what is right to make Hollywood a leader in sustainability. Our communities face immense threats from air pollution and climate change, and all electric new construction would help mitigate the effects of climate change, which is an environmental justice issue. As people of color are exposed to higher levels of air pollution and related health issues through the dependence on gas. Due to COVID, we all know people are spending more time at home, cooking, running the heaters during this cold weather, which is creating more dangerous air pollution levels inside homes, often exceeding indoor and outdoor guidelines. A continued dependence on gas and delayed action on building electrification would continue to negatively affect the public health and the communities we work to protect. I wanted to demonstrate support for building electrification to be included in the Just Hollywood plan, and so that new building construction is all electric. The council has the opportunity to build towards a more sustainable future, and we need to include a smart and aggressive environmental policy, with building electrification being central among them. I want to urge Councilmember O'Farrell to support the Just Hollywood plan, and thank Councilmember Corrett for listening to our concerns. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 8883, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Justin Chow. I'd like to speak on general public comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Like many of my comrades here, I am also from the Sunrise Movement. I'm also a constituent of Councilmember Corrett. So first of all, thank you, Councilmember Corrett, for supporting the Hollywood plan. And I'd like to also throw my support to urge Councilmember Mitchell Farrell to support the plan, as it is not something we want to do to undermine our affordable housing programs by giving developers the right to build larger buildings twice the size, in some cases, of what's allowed currently, without requiring affordable housing. And if we build new transit in Hollywood, just lots of luxury buildings, office buildings, and market-rate apartments will continue chasing out Hollywood's essential workers and the core transit riders of our city. So I want to thank Councilman Koretz again for listening to our concern and building upon, rather than undermining, affordable housing in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 3672, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Yes, my name is Claudio Blada, and I'd like to speak on item number 3. I own bar bricks in Silver Lake and Alacua and Atwater Village.
Hello, Claudio.
And
1 minute, okay? Yeah, you have 1 minute, so please continue.
Yes, I would like to say that I'm 100% in support of this motion. And we also already have implemented this because we feel that we don't need to put any more plastic out there. So hopefully the motion passes today. Thank you.
Thanks, Claudio, and good to hear from you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1610, please press star 6 to unmute. State your name and what items you would like to speak on.
My name is Natalie Friedberg. I'm the president of the Silver Lake Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to speak on item number 3.
Hello, Natalie. 1 minute. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Councilmember O'Farrell and other members of the committee. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you also to members of Councilmember O'Farrell's staff who were very helpful in a meeting earlier this week. During the pandemic, I've been working especially closely with restaurant owners in CD13, helping them to access resources for themselves and their employees to get through a really challenging time, as well as in Eagle Rock, where I actually live. I won't go into details. I'm sure you all know how tough it's been for the restaurants. In speaking with them, I've heard nothing but support for the disposable foodwares upon request ordinance. At a time when they're really struggling to stay open, anything that'll save them some money is welcomed. I've also heard from many that they know that most of what they send with the to-go orders is being thrown away unused, and the enormous waste really bothers them. On the customer side, I've seen the topic of wasted single-use foodwares and condiments discussed exhaustively on social media both in Silver Lake and Eagle Rock. There's tremendous public support for this motion, as there was at the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council meeting, which I attended earlier this week. This motion is a great opportunity, and I hope that the committee will show strong support for it. Thank you again for your time, and stay safe.
Thank you. Likewise.
Caller with the phone number ending in 6931, please press star 6 to unmute.
Hi there, my name is Carla.
What items you would like to speak on?
I would like to speak in general public comment, please.
Okay, you have 1 minute. Please go ahead.
Great. My name is Carly Kirchen. I'm with Unite Here Local 11. I'm calling to urge Councilmember O'Farrell to support the Just Hollywood plan. We need strong environmental language in this plan, as it will dictate the environmental justice of the Hollywood area for the next 10, 20 years, depending on how long this plan remains in effect. And we are in a moment of extreme, climate disaster right now, and we need to have strong environmental language in this plan, as others from Sunrise Movement and groups have outlined. We are calling on Mitch O'Farrell to be a leader on environmental issues by supporting the Just Hollywood plan, and we want to thank Councilmember Koretz for listening to us on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the phone number ending in 8767, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 1610, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 1610, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 9311, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 9311, please press star 6 to unmute.
I already went. Hi. I already went, so I'm not in line for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 0471, please press star 6 to unmute.
I too already went. Apologies for the confusion.
Oh, that's all right. Thanks.
Caller with the phone number ending in 9162, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 9162, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 6228, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 6228, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 6931, please press star 6 to unmute.
What's that?
Please state your name and what items you would like to speak on.
Hi there. I already went, and just to speak on, there was a technical issue after I gave my comment. I was kicked off the call, so I don't know if there's something going on where their numbers are coming up again. But thank you.
Thanks for letting us know. We appreciate that.
Caller with the phone number ending in 0492, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 0492, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending in 6327, please press star 6 to unmute. Mr. Chair, there are no more speakers in the queue.
All right. Thank you so much. And callers, sorry about the technical snafu there toward the end, but appreciate everyone making the time to phone in today. Colleagues, before we go to the agenda item, just real quick indulgence here. I appreciate all of the callers from Sunrise and Unite Here who phoned in about the Just Hollywood plan in terms of the Hollywood Community Plan update. So, of course, we're looking at everything, including the environment, environmental regulations, et cetera. But just want to state for the record, because some of the callers conveyed luxury housing as opposed to affordable housing, et cetera. I just want to state for the record again that in the 13th District, since taking office in 2013, we've produced over 2,000 units of covenanted affordable housing in the 13th District, most of it in Hollywood. And then we have over 600 units in the 13th District of covenanted affordable housing in the pipeline. So we are an affordable housing producer in the 13th District. And that, of course, is an enormous part of justice. And that is just something I wanted to make sure and clarify. And if anyone has any questions about that, please feel free to call my office. We are totally open to all considerations as it relates to Hollywood Community Plan update. And I would also turn everyone's attention to take a look at the housing element, which is up for readoption this year, which is a really comprehensive way to put in protections for all of the community plans across the city. It's a very comprehensive approach to helping reach environmental and justice goals with the way the city evolves and grows into the future. So just feel free to dialogue with my office anytime on those issues, because I think that we're all aligned with the same goals here, but we sometimes just speak about them differently. So thank you all for your time, for calling in, for your passion and caring so much about these issues. On that, we're all on the same side. So thank you, colleagues, for indulging me. We have a full committee here today. We were joined early by Mr. Mark Ridley Thomas and Mr. De Leon, so all 5 members are here. And colleagues, unless there's an objection, I'd like to move item 1 on consent today. And I see no objections, so Mr. Lidd, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember O'Farrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Ridley Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Koretz?
Aye.
Councilmember De Leon? Councilmember De Leon? And Councilmember Krikorian?
Aye.
Thank you. It looks like we take item 1 on consent. I'd now like to move to item 2. Mr. Prieto, if you could please read item number 2.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Item number 2 relates to a motion, Koretz, Blumenfield, and Board of Public Works to report relative to requesting the city attorney prepare and present an ordinance relative to the formation of the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office and Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Prieto. Colleagues, we all know that climate change is not an abstract concept. We're living in the midst of climate change right now and have been for a while. This committee will continue its efforts to prioritize and take action against the immediate dangers that climate change and ever-rising average temperatures pose to Los Angeles. Thank Councilmembers Koretz and Blumenfield for their work on creating this commission and this new office toward those efforts. This committee and the City Council are taking on some of the epic environmental challenges of the day as they relate to our climate, energy, and environmental justice missions, because we all know what's at stake. I will be eager to see what this office and new commission can bring to the table in alignment with these objectives. I'll take a moment here to congratulate Marta Segura, who has joined us today for being appointed as the new director of the Climate Energy and Mobilization Office by Mayor Garcetti. The Board of Public Works, led by Commission President Greg Good, is here to provide an overview of the functions that the Climate Energy and Mobilization Office and the Commission will be. So, Greg, if you could please provide an overview. We are ready to hear all about it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really appreciate being here. Thank you, council members. It's a pleasure being here, and it's been great listening to the public comment and the support for this office. Mr. Chair, Councilmember Farrell, as you alluded to, this has been an effort of the entire city family on a lot of levels. On July 3rd, 2019, the City Council approved the establishment of the Office of Climate Emergency Mobilization, as well as the establishment of a Climate Emergency Commission. Also, in July of 2019, this committee, in its iteration at that point in full council, approved or really laid out the framework for what that commission would and should look like. And then today's motion, of course, requests or would initiate the ordinance necessary to sort of codify and establish that commission. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't again acknowledge on the front end the incredible work that has gone into this. As a starting point, the LEAP Coalition, many of whom were represented in public comment, have just been an incredible driving force, intellectually, emotionally, politically, in terms of bringing the issues that this office intends to address and will address per its mandate to bear, and for first front and center. I want to thank the mayor for his incredible leadership and commitment, along with the mayor's sustainability team, which have done a lot of work, including with the establishment of the Green New Deal program or plan to tee up a lot of this work. I want to thank Council President Nuri Martinez, Council Member Bob Blumenfeld, Council Member and Chair Mitchell Farrell, who in the earlier conversations was really helpful in terms of, figuring out what the landscape of this commission should be. Of course, Councilman Krikorian's been a champ on climate change amelioration from the outset. And lastly, I must say, if I can borrow legal parlance here, the but for in this endeavor has been Councilmember Paul Koretz, along with his sidekick in this endeavor, Andy Schrader. Simply put, but for Paul Koretz, I don't think we're in this hearing right now. You're having the hearing, but we're not in this hearing right now. And so I want to thank Councilmember Koretz for his just relentless leadership on this, and again, his trusted deputy, Andy Schrader, for really pushing all of us for looking at climate change and climate change mitigation in a different way, or in a renewed way, in a revisioned way. The purpose, the vision that we see in Public Works for this office and commission really is multi-pronged. I think if we can stipulate to sort of the threshold matter, and Chair Farrell, you hit it. The world's on fire, and we need to be grabbing buckets. And so that is our starting point. This is time for a new way to address everything. And more specifically, our interpretation of the vision for this, or the mandate, and then our vision for this, is that this office and this commission are meant to, really institutionalize intention around addressing and mitigating the impacts of climate change. And then to take that a more specific step further, to institutionalize the voice, the guidance, and the counsel and the input of those communities frontline, vulnerable, indigenous communities who have disproportionately, and I say disproportionately in capital letters, suffered suffered at the hands of climate change and suffered the impacts of climate change. And if things aren't done differently here and across the globe, will continue to suffer the impacts of climate change disproportionately. It is our charge to help create a bridge between the voices of those who have, again, disproportionately felt the impacts of climate change, and the great work that this council and the mayor and future councils and future mayors will do to address both the immediate and the long-term impacts, to be prospective and reactive, to mitigate and to push and be visionary. And absent these voices in a concretized vehicle like this commission, it's ad hoc and it's reactionary. This commission and this office will provide that voice and embody that voice and help inform the work of council and the mayor. With those motions, the office again was placed in Public Works, which we're excited about. It is aligned with so much of what we're doing in the bureaus and in our other offices, the City Forestry Office, the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration, Bureau of Sanitation, Streets LA, the visionary work of those bureaus. This aligns very elegantly with that work. And then you've tasked us with not only setting up this commission once the city attorney moves and the council moves an ordinance, but also to execute and actualize a community assembly process to really go broad, but also go deep. Again, with a particular focus and a specific focus on frontline indigenous and vulnerable communities. We intend to do that. We're very excited about that. It is a not insignificant endeavor. It is going to be challenging to really ensure that those voices are heard and heard in a meaningful way, and that they actually have that opportunity. But we're very excited about taking that on. As you alluded to, Chair O'Farrell, we're very excited to have brought on Marta Segura as our first and inaugural director of the Office of Climate Emergency Mobilization. We are currently also moving towards aggressively and urgently to hire a community services coordinator who will help to facilitate, frankly, the organizing and the stakeholder outreach work that needs to happen. And then we look forward very much to working with the mayor, with the CAO, and of course council in the budget process and addressing staffing and budgetary needs as we move forward in this, again, a very ambitious endeavor that we have been tasked with. So with that, I'm certainly available, open, and excited to answer questions. I suspect Director Segura is as well, and thank you so much for your time.
Greg, thank you very much, and thanks for all the hard work that you have put in helping get this off the ground, you and Marta both. We really appreciate it. And I'm glad you mentioned Indigenous. As someone who is of Indigenous heritage myself, belonging to a Native American tribe, there is so much tokenism in relation to the approach to Native American involvement, Indigenous involvement, and this is an opportunity to work way beyond tokenism within the Indigenous community as it relates to the environment. If anyone deserves a front seat at the table on anything environmental, it's the Native American community, the Indigenous community. Beliefs across virtually all tribal nations historically have been in concert with Earth and the Creator and the rhythms of the planet. And there's just so much that this entire community can learn from Native America. So I am very glad that the Commission will include at least one Indigenous appointee from the Gabrielino, Tongva, Fernandino, Tataviam, and Chumash historical local tribes. I want to highlight this because for the reasons I just mentioned, Indigenous leaders and community members have been left out of the conversation or been relegated to the sidelines. And it's worth remembering that we are on Native land. The city, the civic center, was built on Tongva land, and the Tongva were displaced so the city could grow and come into existence. So we all benefit from the sacrifices made by Native Americans. That's why we're here. That's why all of us have this opportunity to help make Los Angeles a great city. And so for me, this has a spiritual purpose, and I will be watching very closely. And I appreciate the focus on Indigenous and Native American involvement. So I look forward to the city attorney preparing the ordinance so that we can begin appointing these members. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Koretz so he can let us know how he feels about this accomplishment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I can't tell you how excited I am for this day to arrive and holding this hearing. Colleagues, just to give some background for our newer arrivals especially, we've been working towards this day since at least 2016, a couple days after the environmentally terrible presidential results of that time. We knew Trump would pull us out of the Paris Accords and drop all efforts to address climate change, and that cities would need to continue to lead on climate. And my office and I had already been talking with community leaders about how to effectively bring together environmental justice groups, environmental groups, and labor groups, and all work together towards our increasingly urgent climate goals. So inspired by Canada's LEAP manifesto, hence the name LA LEAP Coalition, we worked together over many challenging months and designed the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office in such a way as to empower and engage leadership from Indigenous and frontline communities, and with a special effort to focus on Indigenous communities from the very beginning for many of the reasons that Mr. O'Farrell articulated. And those are the ones that are the most impacted by climate and toxic pollution, and the labor communities whose careers might be affected. So to make sure that the city both vets and initiates effective policies to make sure that we make their lives better instead of worse as we work to achieve these goals. So our brand new Climate Emergency Mobilization Director, Marta Segura, will oversee the convening of community assemblies in the 7 most Cal environmental screens polluted parts of the city in order to put an ongoing engagement infrastructure in place. She'll also help launch the Climate Emergency Mobilization Commission, and through both develop a Climate Emergency Mobilization implementation plan, a plan that includes all sectors of the city and moves us forward. For just one example, neighborhood by neighborhood, house by house, there's been an approach to climate emissions reduction that we've already successfully piloted through the neighborhood councils called cool blocks. If we're to meet the moment of extreme peril that we're in as a planet and successfully reduce our emissions as close as possible to zero, like our scientists are calling for in this next critical decade, an emergency mobilization is truly what's necessary. And I'm hoping that other states and cities will continue to be inspired to join us, if not the state and the country as a whole. And this effort has already inspired over 1,900 cities and countries to follow our example and declare climate emergencies. So for this effort to be successful, we'll have to continue to fund it, as we have for the past 2 years under the leadership of Councilmember Krikorian as budget chair. We already know that some private foundations are interested in pitching in, as they see this as a critical model, but the city is going to have to show that it still has skin in the game as well. So before you today is a clarifying motion that the city attorney's office requested to help them draft an ordinance. We want representatives from relevant departments and bureaus throughout the city family to be able to engage as needed, as the office will also be keeping them on task. So for just one example, we inadvertently left out Streets LA, which is so important and forward thinking on these efforts, especially including trees. So we opened that up and included it. So I just want to say thank you to Marta for stepping into this important role. And I'm profoundly grateful that we were able to find her and know that her background with environmental justice and deep connections to the community and deep background and knowledge of City Hall will serve us well. I also want to thank the great Greg Good, Public Works President, who's been so helpful now and in his past role in getting this up and running. And of course, we want to thank the mayor, CAO, and city attorney's offices who have been working hard to put all the necessary components in place. So I can't tell you how excited I am to see this finally come to fruition, and thank everyone who is responsible for helping to get us here.
Thank you, Mr. Corrett. I just have one question, and I'll turn it over to everyone else, and that is in relation to the city attorney. If you could please just let us know if the office needs any more clarity with respect to drafting this final ordinance for the office and the commission. Anything else that needs to be considered in preparing this ordinance? My only question.
Yes, Steve Martin, Deputy City Attorney. Pleasure to be here and to answer your question, Chairman O'Farrell. The motion as drafted is actually responding to our questions. So this is the guidance that we need from City Council. So if you are comfortable with proceeding as written, we will begin drafting the ordinance once this is approved by City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Colleagues, Mr. Kokorian, anything to add?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And the way you phrased that suggests to me that you would like me to move along, so I will. but I do just want to say, and I think Mr. Good said this very well. This is certainly a collective effort of many, many people grabbing an oar and participating, and I appreciate Mr. Good's recognizing the work of the council and the departments and the mayor and everyone else. But it should be repeated that this simply would never have happened without Councilmember Paul Koretz. And I can tell you as budget chair, sitting next to him in budget committee hearings for much of the last 8 or 9 years, that he has been utterly relentless on this single issue above all else. And whenever there was a time when we were struggling to try to come up with a balanced budget, despite all our collective strong support of moving in the direction of the climate emergency mobilization, there just didn't seem to be the funding. Somehow we made it happen because of Paul Koretz. And even when it was on life support, Paul Koretz single-handedly kept that plug from being pulled. And so I just can't say enough about this as an example of what organization and participation in the budget process has produced. So for those who are listening in who think, well, the city's budget is just opaque and people don't participate in it and it's done behind closed doors, nonsense. And this is the best, it's one of many examples of how grassroots organization and a single council member with a single-minded objective to achieve something can achieve it and has achieved it. Mr. Chairman, I have questions actually for Ms. Segura and Mr. Good, but we can wait. That can wait. We have a very busy agenda, I know, but I couldn't let this moment pass without really highlighting the work of our colleague, Mr. Koretz.
That's okay, well said. You see all those files on the shelves behind Mr. Koretz? Those are all files about the Climate, Energy, Environmental and Justice Office. He's been working on them for years. That's all of his work behind him. He's so proud of it, and he should be. All right, Mr. Ridley Thomas, any remarks?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's entirely too much fun in this committee. I close with that.
Thank you. All right, well, let's, Mr. Krikorian, you had questions?
Just one, let me ask just one open-ended question, if I could, and maybe Ms. Segura in particular can comment.
Mr. Chairman, point of personal privilege. The rules of the road is leave well enough alone. Mr. Koretz and Mr. Krikorian said they would defer to a rather substantial agenda.
Yeah, I have the floor, Mr. Ridley Thomas. I have the floor.
You did.
Thanks
You
for
did.
your comments. I have the floor.
The chair,
stand down, sir. Stand down.
The chair will rule that Mr. Krikorian does have the floor.
Okay. I just, want to ask in general, if you could talk about your vision for this office's role, particularly with regard to the city's own example for the rest of the community. We have many city departments that just aren't pulling their weight yet with regard to transition to clean fleet or use of renewable energy deployment, and particularly with regard to the built environment, because we have a lot of old buildings, and so I'd like to, within the limitations that general services and other departments have, how can this office be supportive of setting an example using the city's own resources?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Krikorian and council members, Chair O'Farrell, for the opportunity to speak. One of the main values that I bring to the overall vision for the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office is absolutely collaboration, and collaboration on many levels, right, with not just with the grassroots organization and their communication to council and the mayor's office, but collaboration with the various departments that are already moving forward successfully with achieving the goals of the Green New Deal. But I do recognize, as with fresh eyes, that a lot of operations and goals from those various departments and initiatives have to be unsiloed. So I want to be a facilitator of that dialogue, of that communication, of that collaboration, and bring the voice of the frontline communities to the forefront, as represented by the commission and the community assemblies that we will be hosting as a city, so that those voices emerge as priorities, and that those priorities are aligned then with the council, the mayor, the various departments and what they're currently doing. I think if we can combine those various dialogues and voices together and prioritize, we can move further, faster on the priorities of the city of Los Angeles, and not in competition at all with what has already been established, but actually to try to catalyze that, to mobilize that with the voices of the community in alignment with those specific goals. So I think that that's how we can be of most service, and I think that is the vision for the office and the vision of the community. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you.
All right, seeing as there are no other questions, Mr. Chris, did you have anything else to add before we move?
De Leon has his hand up, Mr.
Oh, sorry, Kevin. Yes, Mr. De Leon, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Mitch. Just really quickly, kudos to Paul Koretz and his determination and perseverance to establish this office within the city of LA, being the second largest city in America, and a trendsetter. So I want to give the kudos where necessary. Thank you very much for elevating Marta Segura to the position that she's in. I think she's fantastic. It's funny how we talk about frontline communities. I want to put this in context because frontline communities, 50% of the city of LA is actually Latino, 50%. Then we have African Americans and other communities. So we have a majority. So it's actually not frontline communities per se within the context as sort of kind of an addition to. It really is over half of the city of LA. So we're talking about over half of the city of LA in reality. That has to be hardwired into our decision making within City Hall. Oftentimes we talk about frontline communities, but this is LA. Half of it's already frontline. So that's what we've got to put that in context right there. And as we move forward, decarbonizing, our economy, the second largest city in a city that has more freeways with regards to our tailpipe and heavy duty diesel and what we do with our ports. I think this office will be a fantastic, will play a fantastic role. And someone like Marta Segura, who has spent the vast majority of her life, fighting for those with little or no voice. This is before 535, and before we took cap and trade dollars and said we're going to focus these dollars, specifically and exclusively. And as a result of 535, the Calvin Byron screen was created because we were using empirical evidence, data points now, and not political subjective decision making from elected officials where resources should be channeled so we can reduce our carbon footprint. And so young boys and girls, and particularly in these low-income neighborhoods, such as the ones that I represent, and others, will have a chance to breathe clean air into their lungs, and we can fight this, not just the CO2, but also the CO2 equivalent. So much kudos to you, Mr. Koretz, Paul, for establishing this, for the legacy that will be established for the city of LA. And Marta, felicidades, congratulations to you.
Gracias.
I move this so we can move on.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. So we will now take Mr. Mark Ridley Thomas's advice and move forward. So, colleagues, what I'd like to do is we need to amend the motion.
Ridley Thomas, aye.
Oh, he says aye. All right. I didn't even get to offer the amendment yet, Mr. Ridley.
I'd like to call the question before Dr. Ridley Thomas has a chance to speak, please.
If I had my gavel, I would hit it right now.
Okay. I'm in order, Mr. Chair. Forgive me.
We need to fund this thing, so let me get this amendment in, man.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to add the following instruction. Instruct the CEO to work with the Board of Public Works and report back with any administrative and operational components, including funding needs and potential funding sources to support the office and the commitment. And I would expect there are going to be no objections to that, notwithstanding the interruptions, but no objections. So I'd like to approve the motion as amended. Mr. Lid, please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember O'Farrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ridley Thomas.
I need to think about this a while.
Aye. Councilmember Koretz.
I'm thinking about it as well. Yeah,
You've been thinking about it for a long time.
That's right.
Councilmember De Leon.
Aye.
Councilmember Krikorian.
Aye.
Very good.
All right, we better get things done before this committee gets disbanded. Thank you, colleagues. So now I would like to move on to item 3.
Certainly, Mr. Chair and members. Item number 3 relates to motion, Koretz, Krikorian, Bonin, relative to requesting the city attorney to prepare and present a foodware accessories upon request ordinance that would require restaurants and other food service providers to provide all disposable foodware accessories only upon the request of the customer. Mr. Chair, we have 2 city staff members available for any questions that the committee may have. Adina Hopenstand from City Attorney and Jennifer Pickerton from LA SAM.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Mr. Prado. We're getting back to some very serious business here, and this is very real, but the flip side of serious business is humor, so you got to laugh as we move along on very serious matters. Colleagues, today we're taking another step toward phasing out single-use plastics. In 2019, as everyone knows, I authored a motion for the plastic straws on request ordinance, which has been in effect now for about 2.5 years. I'm honored to now be the chair of this committee to continue the phase out of single-use plastics by moving forward a disposable foodware accessories on request ordinance, which other major cities like San Francisco have already enacted and which the county is also in consideration of. This ordinance expands upon a previously expired plastic utensils on request motion that was moved by Councilmember Blumenfield about 2.5 years ago, which I was honored to second. Mr. Blumenfield, also an outspoken plastic waste reduction advocate along with all of us. I'd like a new report produced to reference both this council file, that is file 18-0737, and the one on today's agenda as well. I also want to thank the authors here for authorizing today's motion, and that is Councilmembers Koretz and Krikorian, to further reduce the use of single-use plastics. We heard the restaurants calling in today. We heard individuals calling in today, customers across the city, environmental groups, small mom-and-pop restaurants that I met with way back in the day, all in support of taking steps to reduce single-use plastics. The U.S. uses more than 36 billion disposable plastic utensils per year, and one caller actually today referred to that. That inventory of discarded plastics could wrap around the globe 139 times. That's just in 1 year. That's according to National Geographic. 8 million tons of plastic enters our oceans each year, as noted by the California Coastal Commission. We all know about the 5 gyres. We have increased plastics in the ocean. We've increased them since the Great Pacific Garbage Patch became well known 15 years ago. Plastic waste litters our streets, negatively impacts our aquatic life, it's produced by fossil fuels, and creates unnecessary costs for taxpayers and businesses. Recently, the county contracted with the UCLA Luskin Center for Innovation to produce a report on food sector plastic waste, among other items. And I'd like to share some findings and statistics from the report. Here's one. According to the California Recycling and Plastic Pollution Reduction Act of 2020, California state taxpayers pay about $420 million each year in beach cleanup and prevention efforts across all categories, and single-use plastic foodware represents an outsized amount of litter. 3 years ago, when we did the plastic straws on request ordinance, it was 1 every 10 items found on the beach was a plastic straw. Global plastic production is estimated to triple, which would encompass 20% of all fossil fuel consumption. We got to stop this. No recovery facility serving Los Angeles County currently recycles plastic food service ware due to issues of food residue contamination, product size, and product material. Mr. Krikorian and I have discussed this. If we think that we are recycling all of our little pieces of plastic at home, we are deluding ourselves. It's all going into landfill, folks, or in the ocean, or ending up in the LA River. It just is not happening. Alternatives to plastic foodware are available, like reusable ware or compostable ware. Like this plastic straw on demand ordinance, this is not necessarily about enforcement. Rather, it's about changing behavior and expectations. It's about residents taking a moment to think if they really need the single-use foodware and to not expect foodware regardless of its use. How many people listening right now have a drawer somewhere in their kitchen full of plasticware that was in your to-go or delivery bag? Billions of foodware accessories are thrown away annually. And in light of the pandemic, our dependency on food delivery and takeout have hit an all-time high to keep ourselves safer at home. Unfortunately, this change increased the amount of single-use foodware and accessory items wasted exponentially by 250 to 300%, according to the International Waste Association. That's just during COVID. Restaurants in the U.S. spend about $19 billion annually to purchase disposable foodware items, which are often thrown out and exist in our landfills for centuries. Drastically reducing plastic foodware inventory is an opportunity, and I would say is a prerogative, to save our struggling restaurants money while taking action to drastically reduce our fossil fuel consumption. Last time we discussed the plastic straws phase out, I suggested that if we're going to spend the time and funding to conduct a CEQA analysis that it takes for a comprehensive approach to focus on phasing out plastics, let's include all single-use plastics. So since this ordinance will be modeled after the plastic straws on request ordinance, we probably have some clarifications, and I see our city attorney ready to weigh in on any clarifications or questions that the city attorney might need to ask to effectuate the next steps, along with LA Sand. Sanitation is here. And so let's just have a quick dialogue about that, and of course we'll open this up. Ms. Huppenstead, would you like to comment on this item before we open things up?
Well, perhaps in the discussion of the item, some of the areas of clarification on scope and timing, et cetera, could be addressed. So if the committee doesn't mind, I'd like to wait to see what comments I may have.
Great. In that sense, I think it makes more sense to have sanitation present, since they worked on this so comprehensively 2.5, 3 years ago on the straws on demand. So who from sanitation is ready to give some background?
Hi, this is Jennifer Pinkerton with sanitation, unless Alex Liu would like to jump in.
Please.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I think we need some clarification as far as the scope of this. When you're talking about single-use plastics, council member, are you referring just to food serviceware related items for the restaurant industry? I think we're ready to go. I think on request is the easiest, most obvious way to proceed with this, because there is a cost savings that would be realized to all the restaurants. We would probably approach this as we did with the plastic straws on request. We did outreach to all the major, what I want to call fast food restaurants. We spoke to all the industry groups. We dealt with the small industry groups as well as minority owned and small restaurant owners. We did mailers. We obtained a list of all the food service entities in the city and county of Los Angeles, which is quite large. Actually, it's around 25 to 30,000. And we did 2 mailers, so I think we would approach this in much the same way. It's a cost savings measure. The only thing I will add is I hope we could use this as a jumping off point in the future. One of the items that will not be addressed by this are the food containers themselves, which are problematic. Some of those are paper, some are plastic. Those also are not recycled, but I think dealing with these, the accessories, condiments, napkins, utensils is the best first step for this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just say this, as I said 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a complete phase out of single-use plastics is coming. There's no doubt about it. I just mentioned all the statistics. 3 years after Straws Up on Demand, society has moved even further in eliminating single-use plastics. It's an imperative. What we're seeking at this moment isn't that, but when we do a CEQA, an environmental study, as called for a phase out of plastic straws, it will encompass all single-use plastics in foodware, and it probably also encompass the actual food containers that are disposable. I want to make sure that when we do trigger the environmental study, that includes that as well. So anyway, let's start the discussion, and with that, if Madam City Attorney, if you'd like us to just start asking questions and you weigh in as you see fit.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mr. Krikorian, would you like to start?
No, thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. I'm good. Mr. Kretz can go.
Okay, Mr. Koretz. You're on mute, Paul.
And what I said was so brilliant, I really am disappointed that it wasn't.
I have no doubt about that.
I want to start by mentioning to the city attorney, since it was called out, that we've been working with a coalition of environmental groups and others for a considerable period of time. And sometime in the very near future, we'll be introducing a motion relating to the containers themselves. Where a lot of progress has also been made in the marketplace. There are now paper containers that are very similar and similar in cost, so it'll probably be well timed. Otherwise, I want to thank the chair for holding this item and this hearing as well, and I want to thank my co-author, Mr. Krikorian, and his staff for working so hard with myself and my staff on this effort, as well as Councilmember Blumenfield, who introduced the fledgling effort on this that only referenced plastic utensils. While everyone else was struggling in the early days of COVID, the plastic industry seemed to see this as a windfall for them and pushed to wildly expand their market, which unfortunately expands their pollution as well. They somehow convinced the governor's office to roll back the statewide plastic bag ban for a time, citing the same bullshit health concerns that we refuted when we passed our own plastic bag years before that. Plastic bags actually spread germs every bit as well as any other type of bag, perhaps even better since they don't absorb anything. One of the unintended byproducts of our new takeout restaurant culture is a pile of food accessories that tend to show up with every order, including plastic utensils, napkins, salt and pepper packets, ketchup, mustard, soy sauce, you name it, we get it, and we usually don't need it. If I'd kept them all, I wouldn't have a drawer full. I would have several drawers full and would hardly be able to function in my kitchen with all the utensils. And I feel guilty throwing them out because I know they cost restaurants money to buy them. And I know that they're made from the same fossil fuels that are polluting our climate at a frightening rate, but they're not recycled, so there's nothing else for me to do with them. Today's motion is an easy, common sense, no-brainer requirement that we hope will save restaurants money, help the city save money from unnecessary trash cleanups in our neighborhoods, and stop piling unused stuff in our already teeming landfills because none of it's recyclable. The fact sheet from a just introduced similarly minded state bill from Assemblymember Carrillo, AB 1276, says that 561 billion disposable foodware items are used, resulting in an almost 5 million tons of waste. And that during COVID, the use of disposable food accessories has increased almost 300% in single-use plastics and a 30% increase in waste, which is insane. It also says that restaurants in the U.S. spend $19 billion purchasing disposable foodware items, and that California restaurants that have already made this transition save on average between $3,000 and $21,000 per year for each restaurant, while reducing waste and greenhouse gases. So I want to thank also Mr. O'Farrell for blazing this pathway with his Straws on Demand effort. And I appreciate your leadership in this arena. This is a very significant next step, and I ask for your aye votes.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Yeah, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Farrell, and thank you, Mr. Kretz. been a pleasure working with both of you on this, and thank you, Mr. O'Farrell, for recognizing all the others who, Mr. Blumenfield and others who've been so active in this area. And I just want to take one moment to reiterate the point that kind of just went past quickly on this, which is people's misunderstanding of the recyclability of some of these materials, because literally none of these get recycled. So when you put those things that Mr. O'Farrell is showing right now into your blue recycling bin, none of it gets recycled. So I think this is an important step forward in use reduction, just as Mr. O'Farrell, your efforts with straws was an important step forward in use reduction. I do think that we need to take much broader action on use reduction. And I've introduced, and with Mr. Kretz, our efforts to work towards a comprehensive plastics use reduction strategy along with the County of Los Angeles. That continues forward, but it needs to continue forward with much more urgency, because we are at a point now where we're drowning in waste plastic produced by single-use products, and none of it is being recycled, or at least in this area, none of it is being recycled. Even the most recyclable plastics, which would probably be the plastic bottles, single-use plastic bottles, are not being recycled at nearly the rate they should be because of market forces. So we have to get to a point where people just break this habit once and for all, consumers, businesses alike, and we reduce the use in the first place. And that's only going to happen with a comprehensive plastic strategy that this city must advance, and must advance with urgency. So this is an important step, and I'm glad we're taking it. Now let's move forward with the next step, which is a much more comprehensive strategy to deal with all of these. And consumers and businesses need to join us in this effort. This isn't just a government effort. This has to be a societal effort to reduce the use of plastics in the first place.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. Good, okay. Mr. Ridley Thomas?
Oh, I apologize, Mr. Chair.
Oh, it's okay.
Whenever it's convenient, I just call up the question and move the question for a vote.
Terrific, terrific. And Madam City Attorney, would you need to weigh in before?
Yes, please. I'd like to weigh in on some substantive areas of clarification and then just some procedure discussion so that everybody's expectations in terms of next steps are clear. I'm not sure if the committee and council is inclined to have a department report that will assist in the development of this ordinance prior to the draft being transmitted, because that might be a vehicle by which some of these questions could be answered. But for that approach, if then this committee and the drafters, of course, could clarify. For example, we've had a lot of discussion about plastics and the ills of plastics. I'm not going to in any way disagree. But the motion refers to single-use items that can be made of materials other than plastic. So clarification as to kind of the scope of what accessories are in play. There's been reference to carry-out trays and kind of other avenues the city might pursue. Is that intended to be pursued here or not? So some definitions need to be fleshed out in order to just give a draft to council and then to be considered by your body as well that really effectuates your intent. The motion was very helpful in referring to the plastic straw on request ordinance as a model, and in terms of form of the ordinance, the draft ordinance being requested, that can entirely be a model as indicated in form. But there are some issues of timing, of enforcement, for example, specific dates certain in the plastic straw ordinance that wouldn't apply here as to when advisory notices are given or when enforcement starts. So there are details that need to be fleshed out prior to the effectuate the ability of the city attorney to meet the request of drafting this ordinance, and just wanted to flag kind of those substantive areas of definitions, applicability, exemptions, timing, enforcement, and then we've heard a little bit about stakeholder involvement, which would be outside of my office's role in drafting the ordinance. And then on procedure, just so that expectations in terms of timing are clear, we've had some mention of CEQA, and that with, just as with the straw on demand ordinance, or on request ordinance, pardon me, there is some CEQA that needs CEQA clearance that needs to be obtained, and CEQA analysis that needs to take place. And so department needs to go through that process, because prior to any ordinance adoption, the CEQA, any applicable CEQA action must be taken prior to or concurrent with. So those are just some items I wanted to flag as well as the committee decides how to move forward.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Yes, it's my understanding that a phase out is very different from a on request. So an on request may very well just require a waiver, as opposed to a phase out requires a full CEQA environmental review. And so I think my instructions will clarify your questions. And it is my feeling that this will be modeled process-wise and rollout-wise after the straws on demand ordinance in relation to enforcement exemptions, language pertaining to drive-throughs. And so we'll have instructions that clarify all of this even so. But before I offer that, I think Mr. Koretz has something else to add.
Yes. I just wanted to point out that while in the long term this also makes sense, it's especially critical in the short term, because we have a few more months, maybe 6 months, where many people still are not comfortable going out into the world. A lot of people still haven't been vaccinated. And so that's sort of the critical period where this problem will be the most compelling. So God forbid if we have to do a CEQA analysis, we miss the whole thing. For this to be most effective, it's got to be written and implemented at great speed. And so anything in that would require us to implement the initial on request slowly, I would encourage us to be the least bureaucratic and the most expeditious, because otherwise we will be receiving and throwing away continuing millions and millions of utensils in the next 6 months.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Koretz. I do believe that plastics upon request is a waiver. A complete phase out or ban is CEQA. And so, speaking of a sense of urgency, 30 days. I want this wrapped up in 30 days. So please hear my instructions. I'd like to amend the motion to add an instruction for LA Sanitation to provide the city attorney with the assistance it needs in the development of the foodware accessories upon request ordinance and components which will be needed for its implementation, including definitions, applicability, exemptions, timing, enforcement, and any environmental notice requirements. I'd like a report back from both departments, City Attorney's Office and LA Sanitation, within 30 days of this matter, including an assessment of the requests contained in the Blumenfield-O'Farrell motion, Council File 18-0737. All reports, including the ordinance, should reference both council files. And again, most of the language and instructions come directly from the straws upon request ordinance that has been in place now for 2.5 years. We needn't reinvent the wheel. We simply need to enlarge the universe of what's covered. So we can do that within 30 days. There's no reason not to. So I'd now like to move on to, if that would be my request, and Mr. De Leon had already called the question. So I think with that, it looks like we're ready to call it.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with your recommendation. recommendations, if we could add the CLA to the list of reporting agencies, and would it be okay with you, Mr. Chairman, if we set as a target date for return to this committee April 1st?
Absolutely. That would be 4 weeks from today, and I believe that's 4 weeks from today. Yeah. So Thursday, April 1st, and it is not April Fool's Day. It's going to be April Let's Get Real Day. So yeah, that's great. Let's include the CLA in those instructions as Victorian added.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's move forward with the vote.
Okay. Councilmember O'Farrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Ridley Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Koretz?
Aye.
Councilmember De Leon?
Aye.
Councilmember Krikorian?
Aye.
Thank you, colleagues. I'd now like to move to item 4. Mr. Prieto, please read the item.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Item number 4, Bureau Sanitation report relative to Recikla service providers and a short-term plan commensurate with other city emergency ordinances and orders in response to the COVID-19 pandemic with consideration of payment deferments and related matters. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. 1 month ago, we had a very productive hearing and a conversation with LA San and all of our haulers with the exclusive franchise about the approaches to working with struggling businesses and multifamily buildings in relation to the January 1st contractual rate increase for all customers. We also heard at the hearing about the unfortunate impact of the pandemic has had on the haulers and their crews. Input from the public about the rate adjustment and the challenges facing multifamily landlords across the city that are not receiving rent, in some cases any rent, due to the various city-imposed ordinances, and how that really proportionally affects the mom and pop building owners the most. This pandemic has affected and burdened everyone, but we have to work collectively to bear the burdens of these unforeseen circumstances that we found ourselves in through the pandemic. That's why the city stepped in with emergency regulations that we all know about. Businesses from closing with the different protections there. The rent subsidy that we did, the rent freeze that we enacted almost a year ago now, with a 12-month payback period. Really, some of the strongest ordinances across the United States that protect small businesses and renters here in the city of Los Angeles. And we're about to offer additional subsidies for renters and households affected by COVID-19. So we know that we had the waste haulers and sanitation have been negotiating, talking, and working on terms, revisiting, rethinking all of the circumstances of the rate increases and the contract, the legally binding contract we are in the middle of with our Recikla agreement for the past several weeks. So we're now going to be joined by LA San to go over the key components of those conversations of the uniform plan that the haulers have agreed to voluntarily in providing relief to customers impacted by the increase, as well as the outreach efforts to the public that are still yet to be made to ensure that impacted customers are informed about this plan. So if LA San could please go over in as much detail as possible, the conversations and the agreement you have reached with all 7 of the haulers to create a voluntary program to address the needs that we discussed a month ago.
Well, certainly. Good morning. My name is Dan Myers with LA Sanitation and Environment. I'm the division manager for the Recikla program. I'm also joined today by representatives from all of the Recikla service providers. I'll often also refer to them as RSPs. I'm pleased to provide the Recikla service providers rate impact relief plan. This plan is in response to the concerns raised and the requests made on the February 4th, 2021 Energy, Climate Change, Environmental Justice, and River Committee members. Immediately following the February 4th meeting, the RSPs took the initiative to meet amongst themselves to discuss and develop a plan that took into consideration the committee members' request for payment deferments, payment plans, deferred increases, and late fee waivers. The plan also took into consideration the committee members' concerns about how to address the unique financial challenges facing multifamily property owner customers. The following provides a summary of the Recikla Rate Impact Relief Plan, which provides relief in various forms to all Recikla customers. I'll start with the universal relief to all Recikla customers. First, the RSPs will continue to temporarily suspend service for customers affected by the COVID pandemic as necessary when businesses have had to temporarily shutter their operations. The RSPs will continue to work with customers that need to change their service levels to account for changes in their businesses. The RSPs will continue to proactively reach out to their customers via letter, email, phone calls, and on-site visits when possible to provide customers an opportunity to bring their balance current. Payment plans specific to each customer's needs and circumstances will be offered to the greatest extent possible. The RSPs will extend the existing 15-day late fee assessment period to 30 days for all Recikla customers through September 2021. Understanding the unique financial challenges facing the multifamily property owners, additional relief will be provided to these customers. All multifamily customers will have the ability to defer their 2021 rate increase amount, beginning with their March 2021 billing. That's for April 2021 services. Multifamily customers will need to notify their RSP if they wish to defer their rate increase. Multifamily customers will be able to defer their rate increase through September 2021. Multifamily customers can request deferment at any time through the September 2021 period. Also, multifamily customers will have until December 30th, 2021 to pay the deferred amount. The deferred amount can be paid monthly over 3 months, October, November, December, or as a lump sum payment by December 30th, 2021. For multifamily customers whose deferred amount exceeds $1,000, the deferred amount can be paid over a 6-month period and may be extended up to 12 months on a case-by-case basis. There will be no late fees or finance charges associated with the deferred amounts. To ensure customers understand the plan presented here, the RSPs will outreach to their customers. The RSPs will reissue language advising customers to contact their RSP to discuss service adjustments or payment arrangements that may be available to alleviate the COVID-19 pandemic and rate increase challenges. The RSPs will develop a postcard that will be approved by LA SAN that will be mailed to all multifamily customers, notifying them of the payment deferment relief option. This will be mailed as soon as the committee approves the plan. And lastly, the RSPs will also develop a letter to be approved by that will be approved by LA SAN that will go in each multifamily customer's bills with the details of the Recikla Rate Impact Relief Plan deferment options. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. I only have one question for clarification. The agreement states that if the deferred amount exceeds $1,000, that it can be paid over 6 months and may extend up to 12 months on a case-by-case basis. What criteria will be used? What's the criteria for this determination?
So Councilmember, I assume you're referring to the determination of between the 6 months and the 12 months?
Yes.
You know, I think it really is it's a matter of discussions with each customer, their abilities, their payment plans that might be set up over that 12-month period. You know, a number of different factors. We did not get into the details with the RSPs of the very specifics to that. Although they did relay to me that they want all their customers, right, to be compliant, to pay, to continue with service, and they are committed to continue to work with them to the greatest extent possible.
So it'll be important to rely on the relationships established. In other words, between a customer and the hauler.
For sure. I mean, that has and that has been their approach for relief throughout the COVID crisis. When customers are talking with them, working with them, they're able to make arrangements that's really, you know, addresses needs.
Thank you. I'm sure colleagues have questions. Anyone have any questions? Yeah, Mr. Koretz and then Mr. Krikorian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't comment on the program because I've already been way too long-winded today and don't want to incur the wrath of Mr. Ridley Thomas. But I will ask one question. So the Recikla program has been designed to incentivize waste reduction and disincentivize waste to the landfills. So I assume nothing has changed and customers can still reduce their costs by putting more in the black bin and less in the black bin and more in the blue bin. So are the service providers still educating their customers on that? And also on this program, which I think is really a good one, how can we be sure that the companies actually outreach and let their customers know about it? Because our experience when Recikla first rolled out and price increases were massive for some folks, when they called the companies and asked if they could help them in any way, they'd say, no, the council is responsible for this, call your council office. And we would tell them, no, they can do an audit for you and reduce your costs substantially, and usually that would happen. But they would never tell them about it and hope that most people would drop off and not make any waves. So how do we make sure that the providers actually tell their customers that this program is available and don't do it only if they're pressured to through a council office complaint?
Well, Councilmember, in terms of the notice, and I think that's what's important about the dual notices that will be going out this month. The first one, a separate standalone postcard notifying the multifamily customers of the options to defer. And so that will be a standalone postcard sent out to every single customer, different than their monthly bill. We've talked before. There's times where customers don't pay attention to the details of their bill, but to that end, after that postcard is sent out, when their bills do go out, a separate letter notice will be included in their monthly bill, describing the program, describing the approach, what they need to do, and to urge customers to contact their RSPs to participate in this deferment program. So customers will, the multifamily customers will be getting 2 notices in April on this specific program.
And is there any standard that landlords have to meet to access the program? Because some landlords have had a high percentage of non-payment due to COVID. The building I'm in, nobody's struggling, everybody's paying their bills. So is there any differentiation, or do we just assume that landlords are fair about it and only ask for this break if they really need it?
The RSPs put no qualifiers on this deferment. So as long as it is asked for, they can participate in the program.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Mr. Krikorian, I believe you had your hand up earlier.
I just wanted to suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we, as we move forward with this, first of all, congratulations on your work, your personal work, and that of your staff, and the Bureau of Sanitation on getting us to this point of this voluntary accommodation within the limitations that the city has to operate. I think it's an important step forward that will be helpful to the business community. I do think it would be important for us, if you feel it appropriate, to have a report back at some point to this committee prior to September to both identify the participation rate and also to hear have a more robust discussion about what outreach has been done to ensure that our business community is aware of this opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. De Leon or Mr. Ridley Thomas? Any comments or questions? I'll just kind of weigh in again here, and let me start by thanking Star Persemian on my team for weeks and weeks of working with sanitation and the Recikla service providers. This has been just an ongoing conversation, and I just have to really commend everyone, sanitation, Mr. Myers and his team, and all of the Recikla service providers for really coming to the table and wanting this to work better. So it took a lot of heavy lifting. So I have to commend my team for doing that work. We certainly have heard from our constituents and those who are distressed by the impacts of the fee increases with the agreement. And then we heard from some of the callers, and we know that this is not a perfect solution for anyone, but it's a lot better than it was had it been just left as is. And so in that sense, it is a success, and it is a sense of customers and the service providers and the city coming together for a voluntary collaboration to make something work during the emergency. So yes, to Mr. Krikorian's point, I do have a suggestion on my instructions. So again, thank you, everyone. What we could do is note and file this report, and I'd like to instruct Los Angeles, LA San, to report back in 60 days on the status of the Recikla Rate Impact Relief Plan. And in 60 days, those 2 notices will have gone out in the month of April, and we'll get a sense probably from LA San, probably from the service providers themselves, and certainly from our own offices and our own staff members, once we've heard from customers on adequate notice and the sharing of information about this very important relief plan. So this is definitely an issue that we'll need to monitor regularly until the pandemic and its economic after effects are firmly in the rearview mirror. Without further ado, Mr. Ridley Thomas, did you want to have make a remark or have a question on this item?
Just prepared to second your amendment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. So it is seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember O'Farrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Koretz.
Aye.
Councilmember DeLeon.
Aye.
Councilmember Krikorian.
Aye.
Thank you all. Mr. Lidd, do we have anything else before this committee at the hearing today?
No, we don't. That clears the desk.
Thank you so much, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.